I'm at the local compost site where I've got my mulch for the trip. I rented a 5x9 trailer. We've got 2 yards of mulch in there with some cement for a project this weekend. All tucked away. That cement is going to keep everything from blowing away. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to go any further back into the land because this is where the house was before, and there's a few cinder blocks still in the road. There's a few things keeping me from backing this trailer up. So we just have to do the hard work and unload and walk a little ways. After unloading all the heavy stuff, then I had the light stuff, but also hard to work with, mulch. After I got the trailer in place, I figured this would be a good spot away from the car coming in and going, and I can bring the mulch either side of the big pine tree. And good thing I remembered the pitchfork, because when you're trying to go through mulch with a shovel, it just sticks. But I have a pitchfork. I have no idea where I got that thing from, but boy am I glad I have it today. One of my main goals out at Bonsai Acres here is to practice what's known as permaculture. Something I've been studying for the last couple of years. It's what led me to Rob Avis at Verge Permaculture, which built my passive solar green frame. But I want the land to work in conjunction with, well, me, the trees. One of the things I've been studying most recently is the scale of permanence. Things that we can keep in mind when we are looking at a piece of land. And I knew I needed dry sections. I wanted to avoid a lot of the wet. It's nice to have some kind of grading on your property so you can move water around. So the scale of permanence, it's kind of those top 10, 12 things that you can do to create kind of this permaculture, this land that's going to work for you. And if there's a problem, you fix it with your land and the tools you have, the tools the land provides you, rocks, trees. Now the hardest part of the scale of permanence is at the very tippy top, and that's climate. Mother Nature is, well, Mother Nature. We can't do a whole lot about Mother Nature, but yet we can. There's a lot of projects around the world where people are creating these permaculture acreages of land and bringing back, you know, arid desert lands into more prosperous green habitats. And so you can do that. Going down the list, there's landform, which is the slope I was talking about. You got little downhills here, and you can use that to your advantage. Then water is way up there, because if you don't have water, water is life. And so we need to be able to capture water. I have a well on the property, but I want to capture as much water as possible on my land. So I'm not reliant on a well or a city or a county. Some of the newer things in the Scale of Permanence talks about some legislation or legalities. I'm around conservation land, so there's things I can't do close to the edge of my property if it's going to leak into the conservation areas. And then there's just your access, how you circulate around your population, or how your property rather. Resources within and outside the boundaries of the land, you know, and that's all, of course, everything around you, from the city to the county to the neighbors around you. There's vegetation and wildlife. Microclimate, we talk about microclimate and bonsai all the time. Buildings and infrastructure. Are you going to live on the land? Do you have a shed? I'm sleeping in a tent tonight. Then there's the zones of use. Are you going to have property lines that tell you where and what you're going to do? I'm going to have my trees in one location. I'm going to have my living quarters or a cabin or a trailer in another one. And the water sources are somewhere else. And if you have vegetation that you're growing crops, and those are all relatively easy to maintain and create in the early goings. You can put up a building, you can put off fences, which is what I'm doing this weekend. Then you've got your soil fertility and management. That's at the bottom of the list, kind of the easiest things to do. You can take care of the soil, and there's various ways, of course, you could do that. And then the overall aesthetics and the experience of the place. In my short time here at Bonsai Acres, I brought home 2 bags of trash. So I'm just cleaning up the place. The people before me left it kind of messy. There's a lot of spots where there's trash just laid out places. We're going to fix that over time, and you can do that right away, no money. Money to buy some trash bags, bring it back to your house and throw it in your trash. Recycle when you can. We're going to work on the zones, the fencing, and I'm going to try to prepare the soil for the trees. And that's what we're doing today. This weekend is all about preparing for the trees, maybe a little bit this fall, and then more so in the spring. Tilling the land, turning over that soil just to kind of see, get rid of some of the weeds so they're not going to compete for the root structure down below. The scale of permanence. One of the most important parts of this whole trip too for me is I was super excited about getting into things and starting to till the earth and move things around. But first you have to walk the land multiple times, and I have, and I did it again today. The wetland manager guy came out and we walked the property. We talked about the wetlands below me and the little corner back in my northeast corner of my little tiny larch bog, and what you can and can't do. So I talked about putting boardwalks in the boggy areas, talked about trails, where can I put a pond, and what can I do in my property. So now I have a good sense of what I can do on the land based on the wetland preservation. And so I can build my fence, I can till the earth, I've scoped the land and figured out, is this really the best place for the trees right now? And I think it is. So we can continue our work. It's kind of fun to think back. 4 years ago, in the spring of 2020, I put in my first trees at Bonsai Acres up close to where I live in the east side of St. Paul on the Kruger tree farm. Now I'm tilling again. I remember tilling back then because I didn't know how to use the tiller really well, and I even had to jockey with this one a little bit to make sure I knew what I was doing. It's digging up some land, getting up some of the weeds. Can do some measurements here and keep tilling up and see what we got going here. Get our first little plot of potential trees going. tilled the land back and forth a couple of times, and I got most of the weeds out of here. And it's a little bumpy. We'll rake it as we go. We'll drill some holes eventually. But I want to start setting some cement. So I saw this on another YouTube channel. This guy made this pergola that could be moved. He could rotate his pergola if he needed to. And what he did is he put his cement inside a 5-gallon bucket here, and then he used these post metal pieces that hold the post on. You got your 4x4 in here, and you drill it on for good secure measure. And you put this right in here in the cement. And of course, the glory of this is you can pick this right up off the ground if you unsecure the post from here, and you can move these anywhere you want after the fact. So you don't have posts stuck to the cement and you can't reuse them, or it's just kind of cumbersome. So I thought I'd try it here up at Bonsai Acres. So what I have to do is make some cement, put it in here, and put this on here so it's nice and flush here with the top of the bucket. And then this will all be under the ground. You won't see the bucket. And then if we ever have to move it, if I want to reconfigure this in the coming years, it'll be a lot easier to do that. So it's time to have a flashback to the PSGF and start mixing some cement. We had enough for 5 buckets. I bought 8 bags. 1 bag only goes about 3/4. So I was able to use 7 bags for 5 buckets. This one's a little low, but the support bracket will just be a little bit higher. It'll still be in plenty of cement. And maybe we'll tuck that one down just a little bit lower. As long as I have access to the drill holes, I'm good. So they're all probably higher than they need to be. And I keep tapping them just a little bit if they're a little bit crooked. So those are going to firm up. I can lift them up and bring them anywhere. I can attach the beams to them to put in the ground. We'll bury them completely. You won't see them at all. Then we'll put up our fence so the deer don't eat the trees when we start to plant them. Whew. This is a good day one. I got a lot accomplished. I think it's time to clean up a little bit and consider going into town for dinner. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm the loudest thing going on right now. A little chilly last night, but we survived. Down to about 50 degrees. Beautiful sleeping weather, as we say in Minnesota. It's time to get to work. This is the first area that I tilled over. We did that yesterday. And I also set the post support metal brackets into the buckets. And there we have laid out the first proposed fence structure. So again, each one of these post supporters are in a bucket with cement and the metal piece that'll connect to the 4x4 posts that I brought down from the upper part of the property. We'll bury those completely in the ground so the post is only seen by the eye, none of the green buckets. And then if I have to make it bigger, narrower, wider, I unattach the fence, I go ahead and pull up the buckets and reposition them. I've got the auger system here from my friend Neil, going to be digging some holes in a little bit. I'm trying to do the heavy lifting first, where it's quieter, because even though we're in the middle of nowhere, it seems, and it appears quiet, my neighbors are only about 3 blocks that way, and I don't want to start the mower at 7 o'clock in the morning, so I'm going to try to wait till 8. So, surveying. This is a good reminder to have me slow down and figure out what we're going to do, because once this is in here, it's in here kind of permanently, but again, purposely making it so I can change it if I need to. Now this little alcove in here I'm really excited about. So there's a ridge line that goes pretty steep right here up to the fire pit and around here. You can see this is a nice steep hill here. And it comes down to this part I've mowed, and then it goes down again here. Here's another ridge line right here. Well, at the bottom of this ridge line, by the lawnmower there and those little line of trees, there's a nice little gully right there already. The hill comes down steep right there, and then it goes downhill. And it's kind of flat here, but there's just a little bit of an indent here. And I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to make a dry riverbed that'll be dry in the summertime, but in the spring should have a lot of water from up top. And in here, with this ridge as a curve, it's almost like a horseshoe. I'm going to clear all this out next, pretty soon here. And there's this nice little area. I think I'll put my pond right there. I'll be able to have some cascading waterfalls from the top. The fire pit's up there, so it's an odd position in regards to sitting by the fire. But down here, you'll be able to be with the trees and looking out at this pond. And all kinds of different tree structures around it to border it in. So that's going to be the pond. Now the tiller machine is quieter. Maybe I'll start that up first. Back behind me is the shed. I'm walking down the path that I cut earlier this summer, and it's going to lead us to where the sun is just coming up over the trees now to reveal the trees. Now when I say the trees, I mean the future trees. I just finished tilling 2 more times today, left and right, front and back. And the 4 green buckets are in place for the corners. It's going to be 23 by 23. This gets me just to the left of a couple of trees that are growing here. So we'll protect those trees. They'll be inside the fence line. And then we have the bucket over there and the bucket over there. So this is morning sunshine on what will be the first iteration of Bonsai Acres. 23 by 23 square. And we'll see how many trees we can get in there with a couple of poplar trees that we're going to save in case we move things around. I want trees to mature and continue growing on the land, and or these few trees that are on the soil right now could become bonsai trees if we propagate them the right way. So that corner's got to be first. Now that corner is the lowest part of all 4, so I don't have to dig quite as low. I'll get it started. then I'll just leave it exposed, and we'll cover that with some dirt and kind of make it mounded up just a little bit. But I have 8-foot posts. I'm only gonna have a 6-foot fence. I should be fine to make that post a little bit lower into the ground. We're gonna start up the auger now and get to work. Let's see what that's gonna be like. So digging the first hole was a little bit of a surprise. It wouldn't go past the initial auger piece, and I was like, hey, is this going the wrong direction? But lo and behold, you've got to wobble it around a little bit and get that digger piece, that little angled piece of metal to kind of grab that dirt and make it go down. And then of course, be careful. My biggest concern is rocks in this property because there's a lot of them. And when you hit a rock, it kind of takes the whole auger and you with it if you're not careful. Okay, so hole number 1 is dug, and I dug this one first because it's the lowest point of trajectory compared to the whole 23 by 23 square. And so this one literally could have been on the ground and it would be still higher perhaps than those dug and buried, at least that corner opposite over there. But this is definitely plenty in the ground. I'm gonna go ahead and bury this thing all the way up to cover all of this, and just so this is exposed, and we'll be able to get that 4x4 in here and bolt it on. And then we're gonna go ahead and cover dirt up so you don't see any of this shiny stuff. And so we're gonna make a big mound of dirt here in the end anyway. And then the fence will come right down to the edge of the bucket here, going this way and that. So one thing that I wanna make sure that I'm level on is twisting the bucket. So this post goes to that post as straight as possible. And then this has to be straight as possible with that one. And again, this is going to be wire fence with a 2x4 stud probably. I'll probably run a 2x4 stud on the top and the bottom just to secure these posts from wobbling around. The fence alone won't do that. So I'll have 12-foot posts going from top to top and bottom to bottom just for a little security. And then it's just gonna be wires, just trying to keep the deer out. I don't want the deer eating all the trees. So this one's dug. We'll leave this one in here and we'll go do the next one. My main goal is to get the 4 post holes dug first. Once those are in the ground in a place that I'm comfortable with and I'm happy with, and then the rest of later today and then tomorrow morning if I need to, I'm just gonna dig about 20 holes for the trees I might put in this fall yet. So we'll get some pre-holes dug so it's easier for me when I come up in the fall. One of the nice things about putting these support connectors in the cement in the bucket in the middle is I'm going to be middle post to middle post measuring 23 feet. I said many times before on the passive solar green frame, measure twice, measure 3 times if you have to, because you don't want to do this over. I'm not going to fill in any dirt until I have all 4 holes dug, but this one is pretty sturdy. This is facing the right direction. We have open to open, and then this way to that way. We got to hope we're as straight on as we're going to be. And again, if these posts are slightly off, the 2x4s that go across and connect them will secure them up just fine. That's what nuts are for, screws and bolts and all those kind of fun things. All right, on to 3 and 4. The heat of the day is behind the trees. My friend Steve came up. We took a break, went into town, ate at the local saloon. First time I've been in there. Carrick only has 71 people, but there's a saloon there. A lot of AT four-wheelers stop there for beverages and for some food. So I brought down some 2x4x12s that I picked up in town after I returned the tiller. So we got some green treated 2x4s that'll go bottom and at 6 feet. So it'll hold the pillars together and then we can put the fencing on there. That won't be till the next trip. But I think I'm gonna start burying some of these buckets now. So let's bury some buckets. I tilled, so I know I have some loose dirt, along with the dirt that I used to dig these up to begin with. A lot of loose dirt, which is nice from all the tilling, so we can get access to dirt pretty close by if we didn't leave ourselves these wonderful piles. Get some water down these buckets to settle some of that dirt. And then we'll throw some more on top. So I'm feeling pretty good about the work. I didn't get enough buckets filled with cement, so that's kind of a bummer. I got 5, I need 8. And I forgot to buy cement in town today, but you know what? That's fine, we won't rush it. We'll get 3 more buckets completed next time I come up. Maybe tomorrow if I go to town early enough. We'll get 3 more buckets done, then we'll have 4 more to put in the ground in the middle points, so our 12-foot 2x4s can reach halfway. And I was even considering if I even use the buckets at all in the centers. Maybe I just put a 4x4 down a foot or so, because they are 8 feet tall. I only need 6 feet above the ground. I could go a foot down, and then they'll be attached by the wood so they won't go anywhere, and it's just holding up a little bit of fencing. But something tells me I want to have the permanence of the firm other 4 buckets that again can be taken apart at any time, dug out of the ground, and repositioned if I decide to do that. We'll see how I'm feeling in the morning. But you know what I'm going to do right now? It's still warm, it's really calm, it's beautiful. I really stink, I do. 2 days of this and I haven't had a shower. So I'm gonna get my swimsuit on. I'm gonna get a new t-shirt maybe, or maybe I'll leave this one on. I'll bring a new t-shirt with me. I brought my paddleboard with me and I'm gonna go to the Kettle River and do some paddleboarding. After all, I gotta have some fun too. Although this has been a blast, I love this. But let's go paddleboarding. It's 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, day 3 at Bonsai Acres. And I did my morning Shinrin Yoku. On this morning's walk, I was carrying around the green tape. And I went ahead and marked the trees on the south end of the property, the long south stretch. So when I start thinking about my Shinrin Yoku trails in the future of Bonsai Acres here, I know where to stay north of, so I can walk, people can walk and not have to be on the other people's property. In the southwest corner, I found the conservation easement borderlines, south of my property and west of my property, conservation easement boundary. So they're protecting all the lands almost all the way around me, which is really cool. And if it's under protection, we can cross our fingers that it's less likely that anything will happen in the near future anyway. But you never know. Lands have been taken before. People have come in and changed the rules. But Shinrin Yoku on a beautiful Sunday morning. A little breezy today, so it'll keep us cooler as we finish some of our work. I brought down some mulch today from the mulch pile up by the shed for 2 reasons. I wanted to mulch the existing trees in the 23 by 23 foot square so those trees can get some moisture and survive in a very, very dry September. Most of Minnesota in kind of a pre-drought stage after the wettest spring on history and now the driest and hottest September in history. Times are changing. The climate, the planet's doing weird things. So part of my goal here at Bonsai Acres is to make this as sustainable as possible. So I'm going to be creating some what are called swales. I've mentioned those, I think, earlier in the program. A swale, a place to capture water. I'm going to have a pond up here. Got to reserve some of that water, especially if the pump ever goes out. But I want these trees to survive. And then I also put the rest of the mulch. I put a wheelbarrow in each corner and then spread it out over the trees. And then the leftover I just left in the corner for future tree plantings. So all that's left to do today is to start up the auger again and drill about 20 to 30 holes. I don't know if I'll get 20 trees up here this year, but I will get some trees, I hope. And if not, the holes will be kind of pre-dug for the springtime. So if you can see in that little dug out area, that's where I envision the pond. And the pond's gonna come out and trickle. The spillway is gonna be right here. And that's that path right down here. It's gonna go all the way down so it can go down into the bog, the old larch bog. So with my 4 walled fence here, do I put the doorway here or do I put the doorway over there? Now the problem with a river, a dry creek bed here, is I won't be able to get a wheelbarrow in and out of here. Without a bridge, of course. So I'll be constructing some kind of bridge. And so this would be straight in. Right from the hillside here, this would be straight in right here. Be a nice straight way to come in. But I kind of like the door thought over here. If I put the door over here, I can open up the door and peer in at the pond and just kind of sit here at the edge and have this right side and left side protected. So as I change from the other angle here, now I'm in the pond. I'd be in the future pond looking out at the first fenced in tree farm. And if the fence is right there, right in there, those doors can be open and I can see right into the pond. Now upon closer inspection, I have to think about this, although I'm not building the fence today. Coming right down from the hillside right over here, and even if there's a creek there, it's a shallower creek, it's pretty level there, and I can just go right over that little bridge if I have one, right into the doorway. Whereas over here, the bridge would have to be coming over there, and then I have to take a right-hand turn into the fence here. So I don't think this side over here will be the most easy to get a wheelbarrow in and out. Straight in, right here, straight into the farm would be best. And then over here, well, it's just a fence. You'll still be able to see the pond. And I'll make other benches, maybe just on the other side of the fence, so you can sit and enjoy the pond. We'll see if that works. And now that I think I have an idea of where the fence should go, let's drill some holes in vertical lines, east to west, where I'll plant my trees, leaving a center gap in the middle to bring in wheelbarrows in and out easily. So I took off the sprayer off the hose, and lo and behold, there seems to be a lot of pressure. The hose must have some kind of dirt, grime in there. I got the last bucket put in there. I need to make 4 more at home. Right side, left side, 2 in the front for the doorway. And man, is this ice water cold. Yeah, the auger got the best of me about 6, 7 holes in. I hit a root or a rock, and it jolted that thing right out of my hands. If I haven't showed you already, let's show it to you in slow motion. So I was trying to get some angle on there and twist it around and get it down, and boom! So I have a bit of a welt here. Don't know if I broke it. I continued and drilled about 10 more holes. Whew, that's cold. Yeah, so we got about 2, 4, 6, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, about 25 holes. I think I still can put another row down this side and another row down that side and still have plenty of room for a big old wide entrance. So at least 16 more. So 25, 35, 41. I can get a good 40 trees in here. Now keep in mind, that's with some of the poplars already in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 poplars. So I'm putting water on the trees that I've mulched. Hopefully they'll survive the rest of fall, give them some nice moisture to get set into winter. It's dry, no rain in sight for at least a week plus. That means almost 30 full days without rain in most spots, a full month. Yeah, I'm glad this didn't happen on day one, but it is time to stop. It's coming up on 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. I was hoping to leave by noon. I've got most of the things packed up already. Did that when it was early in the morning so I wouldn't wake up the neighbors, because that auger is pretty loud. So it's time now for me to take a walk around Bonsai Acres. Take my walk before I leave, just a little bit, scope things out, kind of see how I'm feeling about things. Had a couple of nice bonfires, sat in the hammock. Got a lot of work down here on parcel number 1 for the future trees. I mowed some more grass, made the passageway a little bit bigger down here, possibly clearing out more room for the next parcel. I'm really excited about where the pond's gonna go. I also was able to walk the perimeter on the south end and put the green tape all along there to kind of signify where the property ends. So when I make my Shinrin Yoku trails, I kind of know how far in to be, and I can kind of make my path and not worry about staring at my app all the time and trying to find the boundary lines. I'm glad I had some ice left in my bucket here from my wound. Keep that swelling down just a little bit. With all this dry weather, the fern groves really took a beating. You can see all the brown. As I go around to this side as the sun peeks out over the trees. Yeah, a lot of brown. The ferns have had their heyday this spring, but quite opposite now in September. Back in the northeast corner of the property is the larch bog. You can almost walk back here with regular shoes this weekend because it's so dry. And look at those green larches, and it's almost October. They're gonna be beautiful in a few weeks. Can't wait to come up and see them in their golden glory. A little bit of color on some of the poplars, some maples, really late this year.